Welcome, welcome. It's Iona here, and this is Emerge and See in our It's About Time to Create Progress Without Pressure. And we are in week 8 of Emerge and See. So it's exciting as can be to be able to gather, and no matter where we're at in the process of our unfolding in the spring quadrant, this is a really excellent place to remind ourselves there's no race. There's no place that we're going to actually be getting to at a specific time. Each of us is traveling in our own way, creating progress without pressure. In the spring quadrant, we take the first 3 months, April, May, and June, and we apply the key word for each month. In April, we create clarity. In May, we create wisdom. We become wisely selfish. And in June, we step into the idea of creating our brilliance. And all of this in the first quarter of the new natural circadian year, all of this is in service to being more me, capital M, capital E, as a code word for all the yous that you've ever been throughout time, so that we don't feel, each of us on our own way, we don't feel alone, we don't feel like we're unsupported, we don't feel that we're not sponsored, we don't feel like we don't have an audience, because every single one of us contains the construct of all the me's that we've ever been throughout time. We can sit down, we can talk to these parts of ourselves. We can let ourselves know when we feel off the mark, when we feel like we've fallen down. We can ask for support. Joseph Campbell reminds us that it's when we are on the ground, when we really feel like we have not got a place to go, that these, what he calls the mighty companions, the helping hands, get up underneath us and they lift us up. And as creatives, this is a really wonderfully exciting and harmless awareness to carry into our creative ideas, visions, dreams, goals, relationships, challenges, projects, programs, whatever it is that we're placing onto the idea of walking through the wheel of this particular walk around the natural wheel of the year. Whatever we're bringing to this year, or even if we don't even know yet what it is that we're bringing to this year, it's okay, because it's not a race. What we're really looking at, what we're investigating, and what we're curious about is how to allow things to unfold, how to allow ourselves to flow, how to allow ourselves to recognize when we're scared, when we're frightened, when there's fear, that it's really a doorway opening us up into the sacred creative experiences that we've had thus far, and that we can allow to unfold as we continue to express and create and contribute our gifts and our talents and our skills and our dreams to the bigger world. So bigger is a part of what we're moving into now. We're beginning to think about how creative clarity in April gets us to a place where it's time then to move into creative wisdom in May. And in April, we've got the fire element that ignites our interest and our passion for where we'd like to go in the coming year. So every April, just think about this for a moment. Every April in the natural circadian feminine unfolding of our lives gives us an opportunity to engage and invest and be gifted with this 31 days of time to ask about, investigate, get curious about, invoke, invite, demand, desire clarity around our dream vision. It's really beautiful. And the fire of Aries, April, moves then into the earth of wisdom, Taurus. And we get this really strong sense during the wisdom cycle every year of getting grounded, getting stabilized, realizing that if we're only fire, we're going to burn ourselves out. And so we want to get stabilized in the month of May every year. And if we have that sense of being ignited and also being grounded and rooted and stabilized. Then when we get to June, the energy of June, which is the energy of brilliance, but it's the element of air. And so we go from, let me get my little things here, we go from fire to earth, and now we move to air. And what a beautiful thing. Air is so, air is our breath. Air is our atmosphere. Air is blue, the color of the distance of blue. Remember when we looked up at the idea of the field guide of getting lost and how there's always a blue distance to move toward, to dream about, to engage with. It's really wonderful. We're doing creative work. We're outside the box. We're not limiting ourselves. Each of us in our own way, which is what's so beautiful about the community of coming together in It's About Time to create progress without pressure. That we all know, and there's a confidentiality quality in our covenant, that we all know that each of us is engaging the work in a way that is ours. It's not anybody else's, and yet we can have an aha moment and we can share it either on the thread or on the call each week, and we can recognize that even though each of us is individual in our journey, and each of us gets lost in different ways at different times. I might get lost every year in the wisdom cycle. I might get completely like in a conundrum about, well, what does this mean for me at this time? And if I share that awareness, it gives others the opportunity and the permission to recognize that this work is not about perfection, and it is not permanent. It's constantly flowing, spiraling, moving, carrying us from the shore of birth to the shore of death. And in between, we get to create this wonderful relationship. We get in our little life boat, and we row our boat gently down the stream. So our prompt for this week, in our 8th week, is to recognize that we are now opening the gate, the East Gate, even wider. And the East Gate took us first through the element of fire and clarity, into the element of earth and wisdom, and now we're moving into the element of air and brilliance, spaciousness, allowance space, receptivity space, an oxygen exchange between what we're inviting in and what we're releasing out into the world. There's a largesse that comes into the work as we move closer and closer to the summer solstice. And then on the other side of the summer solstice, which is the south gate, when we get to the other side, we really begin to expand out. We move into another realm. And so when we get there, it's going to be really beautiful. For this week, we want to consider the idea of being in a state of brilliance, having a brilliance breakthrough. It's going to be different for everyone. Some of us might have a big brilliance breakthrough. Some of us might consider our brilliance breakthrough to be rather not worth mentioning, but we want to honor, we want to embrace, we want to engage the idea of growing our brilliance every year when we get to the brilliant cycle. In other words, we're not the same as we were last year in June. And we want to really cognize that each in our own way. So we can take out our 5x7 blank index card, and we can open up the point on the wheel that takes us into brilliance. So we've got the East Gate, we've got clarity, leading to wisdom, leading to brilliance. And these 3 stones on the pathway take us back every day, at least for 15 minutes a day, to being at home, working from home. I have the brilliance to be me, to beam like a light. If we don't plug the light in, it's just a light. It's not doing a darn thing. But if we plug ourselves into our brilliance during the 30 days ahead, ooh la la, something wonderful is going to emerge and come to meet us. So our flashcard this week explores the idea of opening up this next stone our brilliance stone on our wheel that we're building for the whole year. And here we are finishing, completing, bringing to conclusion for this year. Even before we started the brilliant cycle, we're looking at the idea that we've now completed the 3 stones for the pathway of the East Gate. And as we move further in during the summer, we'll begin to build the 3 stones of the pathway of the South Gate. So this is a really cool place to be. I hope you're enjoying our time together and the work that you're doing in your breathing book and in your flashcards. I hope that you will also post your flashcards on our Facebook thread, or like many of you do, email them over to me, either in little bunches or week by week, it doesn't matter, so that by the end of our 9th session, we'll be following it up with a celebration call. And at the celebration call, there'll be a little drawing, and someone's name will be picked out of the hat, and there'll be a wonderful gift that you will gain, a reward that you'll gain. And all of us get the reward of having walked this part of the wheel together thus far. 12 weeks in 46-day segments, and so we're only in the second 46-day segment of this 12-week quarter of the year. We chunk the year down into manageable steps so that we can take our steps to unfold our relationship with the dream vision, the seed idea, the project, the program, the relationship, or the challenge that we're engaging in as we move through the first quarter and then into the second quarter. As we mentioned last week, we can't just stay with me. That would be, really non-productive in the long run. We need to expand. And so we'll be moving from the me quadrant into the we quadrant as we get to the summer solstice. And we'll see how things begin to really telescope out. And yet at the same time, during this 30 days of June, we're still in the me quadrant, wisely selfish, taking care of me, gaining more insight into who I am, what my experience has been, and just looking through our flashcards and being reminded of the wonderful, wonderful toolkit that we are each creating, that's individuated, even though we can create them in a way that allows us to be more interdependent. We're individuating our own creative energy as we move through the first quarter of the new natural circadian feminine year. This is Iona at Wren House Studio. This is Emerge and See, our current course in our year-long walk through It's About Time to Create Progress Without Pressure. And I invite you to remind yourself that this is not a race. You can save all of these videos and you can save the audios. They're actually quite stunning to listen to after you've moved through the period of time, to get a reminder and to have a reflection once you've worked through the first quarter of the new circadian feminine year. You get to review it and look at it, and you'll have a distance. You'll have a sense of objectivity about it. You'll be able to take 10 steps back. You'll be able to take 10 breaths in. We're in the air element now as we move into June this week. And when we move into June, we become more expansive because air is like that. Air just keeps on moving. It surrounds us. It gives us a sense of expansiveness. It allows us to sense into the possibility that our dream, vision, seed, idea, inspirations, programs, projects, goals, relationships, and challenges. It gives us a sense of ventilation within the context of the tension that sometimes builds up, as we know it does, in the creative process. There's tension there. There's like, oh, what am I going to do next? How's this going to unfold? How do I do this? I don't know how to do this. And so natural circadian feminine time allows us to breathe in and calm down. This beautiful vehicle called the body that's now deeply rooted with a fire in the heart, in the hearth, as we work from home. I look forward to seeing you on the call tomorrow night. Bring your ideas and your inspirations around week 8 and our movement into brilliance. Let us know how that feels for you. If you feel like there's an open space or if there's some blocks, we learn from one another. And there's no right or wrong way to do this work. It's natural, it's circadian, and it's feminine, which means that it's constantly midwifing us into the next area of our growth and development. See you soon.